A few months went by with no response. During this time, I researched as much as I could, but I could not about the lost episodes. But I found out about another legend of a lost episode of the Flintstones. The story was about any episode, much like the other lost episode stories, with a special episode of the show aired on otherwise unused television channel that had gory and surreal content. The main difference between this story and the others was that it had somewhat of a credible outside source. The original forum had posted a link at a digitally archived local news article from 1979. The FCC had received complaints from dozens of people claiming to see the episode. The complaints came from the Lake of Kabutogama region of Minnesota, with that most originating from a couple of specific lake resorts. The incident was also known as the Kabutogame broadcast. I had decided that my logical next step was to contact the FCC for more details. They responded within a week, saying that unfortunately that they were not at liberty to give out such information at the moment. I considered filling this Freedom Information Act request, but I decided to take a different route. One of the two lake resorts had heavily involved with the incident was still in operation. I scheduled a vacation from work, and a few weeks later, I was on my way to Lake Kapabogama. Clake's Cove was a collection of 15 cabins, a bar, restaurant, and a small boat dock with boats available for lease. I had rented an old A-frame unit and planned to stay there for 2 weeks. The resort was a nice place to stay. I spent a few days fishing, seeing local attractions, fell in with a group of regulars who had just finished resort every year. We went to several boat trips before I had enough courage to ask one of the oldest about the Kaboboldugama broadcast. Oh, that funny thing? I actually just missed out on the whole thing. It happened a week before I stayed here in the summer of 1979. I heard about it though. You might want to talk to Ed about it. He was there. He was referring to Ed Kleck, the founder of the proprietor of Kleck's Cove. I had considered asking him about the Capable Gamma broadcast before, and was wanting to feel out the locals first. However, at this point I decided I was only being overly cautious and choose to follow the man's advice. Mr. Kleck was in his late 70s, but his memory was still sharp. He liked to tell stories, and I took advantage of this by starting a conversation with him about the history of the resort and lake. This got him going for a couple of hours until I brought up the Kapogoto Gamma broadcast. Now, why do you want to know about that? He asked, seemingly taken aback. I told him I had read about it on the internet and what the story said. He shrugged and said, "Oh well, that's pretty much what happened. Nothing else much to tell, really." I asked if he'd seen the episode, to which he responded that he had caught the end of the broadcast after being told about it of what was happening. He said that he saw Barney die in a horrible bloody death from some folks' Stone Age contraption that he didn't really remember much else. He was reluctant to continue the conversation much further, but assured me that the incident was very real indeed. I pondered all around and learned on my drive home, and I have been left with questions than answers. I hadn't seemed to get any closer to tracking down the Aristocats' lost recording. The more I learned, the more questions came up. Was disturbing? The Aristocats version I had seen connected to the Capitologom Gamma broadcast, or the alleged Batman or Robin lost episode? I was making connections to where there were none. Did that person on YouTube who claimed that they'd seen the Batman episode really see it? Or did he had been just trolling people? Surely all these claims couldn't be conventional, but there was no explanation for his existence of all these lost episodes. While I was turning all this information over in my mind, I hadn't noticed the vehicle behind me until it was right up at my bumper. I swerved on to make contact, and it careered into a ditch. The other car drove out without stopping. I wasn't injured. In fact, my airbag hadn't even deployed. I sat back in shock for many minutes afterwards. When I finally got my bearings, I called 911 and told them my location, based on the nearest mile marker. It took about 45 minutes for a state officer to find me. I told the police of what happened, but he wasn't able to provide such details to make, such as the color of the car that had hit me or the license plate. I did not tell them about what business I was in or lingering my suspicion of the incident that had to do with my investigation, part of the Capitagoma broadcast. Despite this experience, I decided to stick my neck out a little more. This was getting serious, and I needed to clear a picture of what I was up against. I had the acquaintance of the FBI who owed to move my family to a favor of a lifetime. I convinced him over for dinner that I paid for him to look at the lost media group for me. A few weeks later, he had a document for me. It was an analysis report containing the information of the FBI had on this mysterious group. The information known about by the Bureau about the lost media group is so scant as strongly suggested that the group does not really exist. This report assumes the existence of the group for investigative purposes. However, most of the information contained herein and more speculation than confirmed fact. Most of the testimony concerning the LMG has been heresy and off of the record. The exact nature, size, organization, origins, and even goals of the LMG were more mysterious. It's said to be a multilingual organization that embedded in multiple entertainment industries and is most active on the cities, large considerations of entertainment companies such as Los Angeles, New York City, Atlanta, Toronto, and Tokyo. Membership of my invitation has only been rumored to include a number of wealthy entertainment executives and financiers. Second-hand informants report that the group uses a variety of criminal tactics, including bribery, blackmail, and violence, to prevent the dissemination of the information concerning them. It is speculated that the LMG uses other crime nets such as proxies for their operations in order to do investigations into their activities, and that they have misled some people into believing more powerful than they already are. Claims that the group possesses supernatural powers are likely the result of selective disinformation campaigns. The Lost Media Group first came to the Bureau's attention during the 1970s, but it's said to date back to the early 1900s. During the 1920s and 1930s, an urban legend emerged considering mystery reels, which were to be said to be alternate versions of sickening movie theater reels that were differed significantly through the content and tone from the standard copies. The Bureau believes that the lack of public awareness in entertainment industry standards and copyright contributed to the fact that such workers were not reported to the media or law enforcement. A recurring theme is testimony concerning mystery reels is that they're not often contained by violent content that was extreme for them the mainstream theater content, and several former members of censorship boards have claimed to have received complaints about them. Witness also claimed that the mystery reels, based on live-action films, featured different actors, and these actors, in retrospect, have seen them to be concerned. One witness claimed that the actor was a silent mystery reel, appeared to be saying, "Help me," before being sentenced by someone off screen. These claims have led the Bureau to believe that the LMG may have participated in trafficking in human beings. The group is also rumored to be having involved in the production of the disturbance of snuff films, although that this was a little evidence to support this claim, as the support of its existence of snuff films. Other crimes of the Lost Media Group suspected could be within the media privacy, drugging of any actors, trafficking in endangered species for use in films, and recording executions for other criminal organizations. I pounded around over the report, membership invitation only, well funded, well connected, and must be well organized, but yet their activities seemingly be something awfully bizarre. Why would a group be kind of resources in this group? Apparently had unlike the FBI, I was beginning to take the existence of the Lost Episode Media Group for granted, but at this point, not spend them any more traditional profitable crime movie activities. Why would anyone commit to so many resources, risk so much to make movies? There was no way the soap hysterical syndicate could even make enough money off just the simply piracy to those considered profitable. The other crimes listed in the report that should have beyond the scope of proper size of cable externally, but composed of many people in the entertainment industry. Was this about money? Or identical religious motivation, perhaps? Certainly, it did not fit with any religion I could ever think of, and it doesn't seem like they were interested in influencing elections. Their motives must have been subtler, but I had a message that they wanted to send for an influence that they would create. Using the power of mass media, they were able to dabble in many number of crimes towards whatever their ultimate end was.